There will Knox. Say hello to the people, sir.
Yes, sir. Hello to the people, sir.
So we've been working hard most of our lives, and there's always something that
True.
like we always sit here like answering the bell, get up when you're knocked down, things like that. But like I was
Well,
telling
wait,
you,
before you get started, I'm
yeah,
bracing right now because I never know what you're going to talk about. We never like arrange this ahead of time. So I'm sitting here like, so,
yeah, this one's an easy one. Well, maybe I think
right.
it just gives us more topic to talk on. But you answer the bell, you answer the bell, you answer the bell. You get knocked down, you get up. You get knocked down, you get up. But like in my instance today, I called out of work. When is it a time for you when you throw in the towel?
All together or for that day?
Yeah, for the day. Like, I mean, and maybe we can explore both because sometimes things aren't right for us, whether you move on from another job or whether you move on from another relationship. But in this instance today, I just said this is what I needed to be able to do today. I've answered multiple bells, and there's a point where I think sometimes you just take it and just say, today it's not a loss. It's just it's for me.
Right. Um, I think it all depends on your credibility, your integrity. I think it also depends on how bad you need that job,
True.
right? Because if you're a person who can flex and basically, that mantra back in the day, my man got three jobs, I don't need this crap, like on Everybody Hates Chris, right? So if you have it like that, your tolerance level can be way low and you can bounce at any point.
Correct.
But, if you really value what you're doing, um, then that's a different situation. However, for me, any form of disrespect, I'm gone.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't play that at all. I didn't raise my kids to tolerate disrespect from anybody. I
And
won't put up
speaking
with it.
of, Fort Knox TV is in the house. Salute to
Yes,
nephew.
sir.
um,
Fire. Hey, his
yeah,
webpage looks really good. You guys got to go check it out.
yeah, guys. If you're not checking out Fort Knox TV, check them out. Music too, all over the place too, and
Yeah.
these are bangers, quality bangers, as they say. What's up, Keaton Gaming? What is up? We're just chit chatting. We're talking about when you answer the bell so many times, like getting back up, is there a point where you say it's okay to throw in a towel, just to say for the day or for just something as a whole if you scrap a project or a person? But I completely agree. Respect has a lot to do with it, because your credibility means nothing if the people you're doing it for don't find you credible.
Correct.
And, um,
And you just can't afford to take an L
right.
under that circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. That's the bigger picture. But and today, yeah, for today it was like one of those things. And like I said, I've been going to work sick, everything else. There's a point where you're tearing yourself down more than you're building up your job or your company or anything else. So that was a decision that wasn't easy to come by, because when you're in the habit of getting up and going and answering that bell, that's generally why you have corner people to throw the towel for you, because most fighters that get up and die.
Right. At the same time, and I mean, being on the job as long as you have and not calling out before, at some point, your body will tell you it's time to take a sick day. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you have to listen to your body at all times, and that's just part of health and fitness and mental health as well. I think that a lot of times people push themselves to the limit too far. By the time they're at the doctor, it's a little too late. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you just got
Absolutely.
you gotta know your limits. Gotta know your limits.
For real. Hey, what's up, Steph Jansen? Where are you coming to us from? And Keaton, where are you coming to us from? Yeah, and to that point, I mean that branches off into so many different areas when you're talking about mind, body, and soul. So is this psychologically necessary? Is it physically necessary? Sometimes it's both. And
Sure.
we do too much. We try to prove more, um, when sometimes it's not necessary. But it's an understandable phenomenon. We're conditioned to be worker bees.
Right. Like even this summer, like with my schooling right now, I could have easily skipped through the summer. I could have taken one class through the summer, but I'm actually doubling up during the summer.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I want to get it done. I want to get this degree out of the way and just keep pushing. So I've already made arrangements and told certain people that, hey, I got to scale back over the summer because I have to double up this load.
Right. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Steph
but
is
it's all
in the
good.
Netherlands. Have
Nice.
you been, have you traveled to the Netherlands through your world travels and everything?
No, I've never been.
Steph,
I've been to Germany.
what's the Netherlands like? Germany, you said?
What's that?
You said Germany?
Yeah, I've been to Germany, Guam, Hawaii, Saudi Arabia, um, I mean, most of the 50 states anyway. But over the water, not too much.
Yeah, over on the Impact channel, we get a lot of people. We're doing Today was day 61 of 100 push-ups every day. So I'm going
Nice.
live every morning, and there are people
Nice.
from yeah, New Zealand, Germany, Nepal, India. Like it's cool to have this mix of people that all have this same sort of mindset or willing to support
Yeah.
what's going on, and that's a special thing to actually have.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we are saying about having the fitness and, you know, keeping yourself acclimated to getting older, you know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's a great combination of mind and body. Um,
Right.
there are things that when you're younger you can definitely do more of than when you're older. But does your mind allow you to break those barriers to get through like the tough spots to do it?
Right.
So
Right.
it's it's an interesting combination like that combination of age and ability. And yeah, Fort Knox, we gotta get them reps in for sure.
Right. Here's a question. Let's see. What is going on lately with all the teachers who are being wrapped up in these child molestation cases, man? I've noticed quite a rise, and no one's, they report it in the news, but no one's really making a big enough deal about this. There's so many young teachers having intimacy with their students.
Yeah, some of these women, there's a lot of mental illness going on, and we walk amongst the undiagnosed, the unchecked, and the untreated. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough one because I don't know when when we saw this happening because the running joke is where were these teachers when I was in school, but I find that a crazy joke to make.
Yeah, but we
And
had it in our school.
right, and that's the thing. Yeah, and
And
maybe
she, and she was banging.
is it the age? Is it like when you have young
I thought,
teachers that are still close enough to looking at some of these boys?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Fort Knox says his high school teacher just got out for that. That's crazy. Um,
Crazy.
I don't know. I don't know what brought that on. Is it do we look at children more closer to adults? Because I mean, let's be honest. Some of these younger people don't look like we did when we were younger. Like the body is more full,
But
looks more adult. But is that
I think I think it's part of that. I think the attraction is there, but also think there's a sickness slash genre of what like just becoming. It's almost like a lot of these young teachers are becoming teachers to do this. Like to groom a
Mhm.
kid or whatever. And I think that just having the awareness now. It's almost I put it like this. It's like back in the day with the priests. All we ever heard about was the priest doing this, priests touching little boys. Now it's the teachers and it's the females majority. not
Right.
all, but the majority of the females are now doing this stuff. But then you also look, there's a rise in the upside down pineapple. There's a rise in, look at COVID cases. The biggest number of infections was here in the Villages, which is a elderly community known for swinging.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I guess everyone's just sexually free now, and what that's doing is just opening up different avenues.
Well, and Fort Knox is saying the internet opened our eyes to things we don't see every day before the news was our source of information. And that's true. Like you used to read about it locally, and now you can see it
Right.
globally. And so
But
there's
that's
the
my point, right? So because we can see it, because you can see it on the internet, you have to go look for it. Now they don't really talk much about it on the news, and that's exactly my point. It's like it's flip flopping, and it's happening more.
yeah. There's I forget what the phenomenon's called, but it's generally like when one person can run like a sub 100 meters, then other runners start to do it. It's like once you realize it's possible, then other
It's
people start
possible,
doing
then
it. And yeah, and so once you start introducing these sort of stories, which is I can recall, I think it was like mass shooters and things like that. People are saying stop giving them the cover of Time magazine. Stop giving them this, that, because you're giving other people this idea of what's possible
right,
that
make
they may
someone to
not have
do it,
seen in their
right?
head. Right.
Yeah.
What is the punishment the same? I'm not even sure if we're seeing equal punishment. We seem to have this collective idea as a society that somehow, again, that joke, where were these teachers when I was a kid? I've never heard of a woman making that joke, where were these teachers when I was a kid, about men doing it. And it's
Right.
crazy that we somehow give a pass to something that I don't know. Is that just super symptom, or what? What's the why do we allow that? Why is a one predator getting a pass when the other isn't?
Well, I mean, that's just the unfairness altogether, man. That's why I'm studying law right now, because the injustice is so subjective that it all depends on the person listening to the information.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
You see that in racist cops and everything else, right? Especially racist judges. I'm not even going to say cops. I'll say the judges. When you have the same kid, white kid, black kid, doing similar crimes, but their sentences are way different.
Mhm.
You know, um, but it goes back to the accountability. I think we have to just hold everybody accountable to the standard, for sake of the kid. So here's my question, right? As a father, your
Mm.
son comes to you and says, "Hey, Dad, this is what's been going on in school. Remember that one teacher you came to parent teacher conference? You were like, oh, son, nudge, nudge. She's nice.
Right.
Well, she and I've been having intercourse. What do you do?
How old is he?
Do you turn her in? I mean, because you think about that, right? A lot of these teachers also getting caught are also getting caught by the parents, right?
Right.
So a lot of these dads are like, oh hell no. So is it because I ain't getting none, you ain't getting none, you
Right.
ain't ready, or
Hey, let's be honest though. In high school, I'd have told everybody. You know what I mean? Like you're too
we
young,
had
you're
that
too
teacher,
excited to
man.
get some.
Hey,
I'd have told
the per
everybody.
we had that teacher, and the guy that she was with told everybody too. So that was
Right.
no secret, man.
And he looked like a grown
But
man. He looked like he was in his 30s
yeah,
at
yeah,
17.
he was
So
bearded up.
yeah, I mean,
He was bearded up and everything.
I get why she kind of went that route. I mean, it's still a sickness, but no, if he's not 18, I got to turn her in, because I got to let him know that, bro.
What's
I'm
right and
sorry.
wrong?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't let it slide.
But Dad, that means I don't get it anymore.
Hey, we'll
Yeah,
we'll find you a nice girl your own age, or you can pick it back up when you're 18. But yeah, it's dangerous because we get wrapped up in the beauty of things, and we don't
right. Not
see it for what it is, and that's the problem with the society. And that's looking like a Jodi
exactly. And that was
Arias.
my point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was my point. Right. It
yeah,
puts people in bad positions, because if that's a single father, it may lean one way, but if the mother finds out you knew and you didn't say anything as a father, now there goes a whole different path of destruction within the household.
Correct.
So, it's all about the integrity that you hold for your children, the regard you hold for your safety, for their safety. Because when my
Yeah.
girls were growing up, man, there was none of that. Can we go over and sleep over such and such's house? Um, if their
Not if they
mother
had a
knew,
brother.
the parents well, yeah, it was one thing. But like them having girls over to my house without me being there, oh no, that never, no sleepovers with that. I just,
Right.
no,
Yeah, yeah, that was hard and fast rules. Like if your friend has an older brother, we have to have a talk with the parents, and a lot of them were understanding. Like, look, if he goes to spend the night at a friend's house, then you can come spend the night there. But we can't allow that
right.
because I mean, how much creeping around did we do? And a sleeping parent is a sleeping parent, no matter how you cut it. And you can think that you got it all down or whatever. You cameras, whatever we have today,
I don't know how many
everything was
times you
there for us.
snuck out at night.
Hey man, Count of Monte Cristo.
That window would slide, boy.
I had it greased Vaseline on the windowsill, and it was like the wind, man.
You was sneaking out all the time, man.
Yeah, and crazy part is my parents were asleep. I could have just walked out the front, but we had a dog
Right.
and it would kind of give up the sauce when you're trying to, move and stuff. But yeah, that was it. And so when you think about like how easily kids are thinking like way ahead, and we don't give them enough credit a lot of times. And that was the lesson I learned is the stuff I was able to pull off, I definitely, kept a
Exactly.
tighter eye. Because
Exactly. And that's why Jordan couldn't get away with too much because the stuff he tried to pull out, nigga, what? No.
Yeah, I'll meet you at the window you're trying to sneak out of, or I'll be down the street while you're pushing your car. Like, nope.
Yeah. So when I started working midnights, man, don't think I didn't put two cameras in the house, mounted up high so you can't even touch them. One at the front door, one out the kitchen, looking out the back doors. No, because I know you're gonna try it, and I'm pretty sure. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do know he removed his screen off his window too, so he wasn't getting away with it. I could only do so much. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, he knew. I knew, but if I get onto him, then that means his sisters can get riled up because they're gonna get scared of being home alone, etc. But yeah, he
Yeah.
tried a whole bunch of stuff. So
And
wait till he has kids.
right, and that's the payback. And the thing is, it's like at some point, the lesson that I always told my kids was just minimize the damage. Like you're supposed to make mistakes, but
Right,
don't come home disease addicted or pregnant or whatever. Like don't make like
right,
life altering choices that are going to affect you in that way. Yeah, you go out and you catch the wrong one or you get in trouble, a little bit of trouble, whatever. Yeah, a cop used to bring you home to your parents or whatever, but now like they'll just take you straight to jail if you make it that far, if you make it that far.
right.
So like don't put yourself in positions where you can't come back from the mistakes or these experiments that you're going to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
My
So let me see. What about that one father who was drugging the kids with smoothies? Did you hear about
I
that
didn't hear
story?
about that. Uh-uh.
Yeah. So there was a dad who the kids would have sleepovers, and he was basically rummaging around in the rooms to try to see if everybody was asleep. One of the young ladies was awake and called her mom and said, "Mom, you got to come get me right now. He's just kind of creeping around." Well, he thought she was asleep. So what he did was he went to one of the other girls who was asleep and, started doing some stuff until the other girl popped up. But yeah, he was basically making smoothies for them and putting sleeping agents in their smoothies.
So he was
It's
graping his own kid?
crazy. No, it wasn't. It was like a slumber party. All these different girls over at the house. His daughter's girl or his daughter's friends, and
Wow.
so yeah, he went in on the girls themselves. So
Wow. No, I didn't hear that.
yeah,
That's wild.
that's
I don't,
ridiculous.
again, this this behavior, but it's a sickness. It's got to be because it's not in a natural order. I know we weren't going to talk about the whole Shay Shay thing, but when you're just talking about gap dating, age gap dating, that's in itself is one thing. But when you're in a predatory mode, going after somebody that breaks that barrier of what's acceptable, it's a different level, and there's something that
Right.
has to be addressed as far as what is this mental illness, and can it be treated? If you're wired that way, are you just always wired that way?
Well, it's like they saying, like, um, with pedophiles and rapists. You know what I'm saying? I see Fort Knox mentioned and Shannon Sharp, and we
Yeah,
we talked about that earlier. That's a slippery slope right now, man, because it's okay to be an older man wanting to be involved with a younger woman, especially if she comes at you and she comes aggressive. You know, it's hard to let that go. But as a celebrity or someone with any type of upbringing correctly, what Shannon Sharp's always talking about how well he was brought up, right? And
I
so
know,
by his
I know.
his grandma and stuff. So I don't know, man. It's just it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Um,
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Fort Knox, that's who we're talking about. I'm sure you caught a lot of wind on that. And my thing, it's not even just about him directly. It's just we did the whole video. Let's see what he said. It's not smart to get with a woman that doesn't have as much to lose as you. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's true. And
yeah,
that's why we're looking at marriage as an unfair deal these days. Because even if you come in at 40 grand a year each or whatever the minimum is, the man still has more to lose in the long run, because divorce that's initiated by what 80% of the women, 90 if they're educated, is more
right.
likely to be initiated. And then the child support, I think, is like that same percentage being paid to the woman. You're losing your house, your car, and privilege to see your children in a lot of cases. So, to Fort Knox's
Well, you
point,
know
I
what they
mean,
said there. Yeah,
yeah,
there's that one video kind of circulating around, so I don't want to take the credit for it, but the guy was talking about what men bring to the table. You know, stability, structure, paying the bills, leading the household, taking care of the kids, things like that. Then what do women bring? They would bring love, nurturing, you know, parenting, things like that. However, when the divorce is finalized, everything that the man is responsible for bringing to the table is monetized in that divorce.
mhm,
Nothing a woman does is monetized.
right,
So the man is he's always gonna have to dig in them pockets, no matter. That's the unfairness of it's the unfairness of how things are rated. However, the awareness is there to where men have to be smarter, and you have to
right,
take care of business.
yeah,
You
and
have to
that's
choose wisely.
yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. Like, just in a situation with a Shay Shay, celebrity or otherwise, you gotta be careful going in. Absolutely vet your person, because
Giggity.
yeah, the more you have, the more it is a problem. And yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But the age gap, once you break the barrier of what's legal, then you have a whole different scenario. Then you have something on your hands. But up to that point, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like there's people. But even look at Cher. She's dating somebody,
Right.
crazy younger. So again, is it their industry as well, where you have access to
Well,
almost anybody and whatever you want?
let me talk about that because what I don't appreciate is, as you just stated out, there's been a lot of white celebrities who dated way younger, and no one, Madonna was known for that. No one said a word about it. They just kind of chucked it off. Whereas here, this guy loses his job and livelihood because people don't
Yeah,
like it. That's the
yeah,
problem I have with it. Right? There's plenty of text messages that said that things seem to be consensual on both parts, and her sending a message talking about 25 grand each cheek. She kind of knew what she was getting herself into, and it sounded like he was targeted. But when you're that, I'm not going to say arrogant, when you're that comfortable with getting what you want, um, then you're able to just overlook the fact that nobody's going to do that to me because of who I am, and that backfired. However,
yeah,
like you said, there's been tons of other nationalities getting away with it. No one said a word.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I think that this was two strikes for him because last year he had the whole thing, whether it was leaked or however that Instagram live came. I'm sure that at some
Right.
point they just said, "Look, man, like you've got some stuff going on, and it's too much of your personal life being drug out." But what you were saying earlier when we were talking was like the hypocrisy of Disney with a lot of the things they put out to turn around and say like, "Now you're unsuitable for our brand."
Correct. Yeah, man. Even to the point, you all you had to do is Google Mickey Mouse's magic wand. Like, there's a story behind that, and
Right.
they're saying basically that magic wands are, somehow linked to witchcraft, and that they're made from wood from the holy trees or holly trees, right? And then, of course, that's how you get Hollywood. And so, yeah, that story and the wand, and it's crazy. And all the
Yeah.
innuendos Disney's been known for, the hidden sexual innuendos and things like that. So for them to go after him possibly over this, yeah,
Well, did they? What did they do with Joy Taylor? Is she still on air? Because she was at like hers seemed to be worse because it was like it was within the company. It was like working your way up. There was, signs of
right,
collusion. I mean, Skip Bayless was already kind of out of the picture, but it was kind of like, well, okay, how did he get drugged to the forefront of things? And we don't even know what happened with the last person.
right, swept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, I'm gonna switch gears like way, way off the topic. Have you heard
Let's
this
go.
one? Um, who wins? 100 average men or a silverback gorilla in a fight?
100 average men.
Just 100. Yeah, like we can't like throw like 100 like Brock Lesnar's into it or something. It's just yeah. If we just
Well,
had to randomly select 100 guys,
without honestly thinking, like the first thing that clicked in my head is average man can't fight.
right?
So um, it depends. It depends on the weaponry, right? Because you
No,
can punch a
bare
gorilla
hands,
all day long. You're not.
bare
No,
hands.
I don't. I don't know. Simply because I don't think a man can punch enough pain into a gorilla to get him to stop.
Nope, nope.
So it doesn't matter if it's 100 blows from a fist. Like, if we're talking weapons, that's a whole different thing. But just bare knuckles, I don't think 100. I don't think really any matter, man. It's going to take that gorilla to get tired. Is what's going to
Right,
happen.
right,
They're too
right.
ferocious. You know what I'm saying? They have too many weapons. Because think about it, as a human, your only weapon is your hand and your feet. A gorilla has hands, feet, and teeth and
Yep.
claws, nails that can sustain anything. So, yeah. Um,
Fort Knox is
yeah, I
pushing
see
back.
George.
He says the
Yeah, he
100
said,
men.
no, yeah, but he said because a gorilla get tired in 30 minutes. I don't know about that. You don't,
Um,
I've never seen the stamina.
Yeah, well, and the thing about like humans is we don't have that level of savagery. So let's say
Right,
you are the second wave, and that first 25, you see like five guys get their arm torn off and their face bit off. Nobody's going in for
right.
that.
They're going to quit. They're going to quit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's only fighting 20, 25 people at that point. That was my point,
Exactly.
right? Your fear is not his fear. He's not scared of 100 people, right?
Right.
But 100 people are going to be scared going in, and we've seen enough of that.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
enough of that to where you
And
just
that's
see
just with
the
another
first two dudes
human.
get knocked out, everybody else cowards. Yeah, remember high schools when them schools came to fight? Man, people were tugging tail rolling.
Yeah, those were
So
bad. Those were full blown melees. But let's take a classic movie, Friday. Who wants some? You want some? Knock you out too.
right,
Nobody was stepping to him,
right,
and that was one big dude.
one person.
Imagine,
Yeah,
imagine like
and a matter of
three
fact, they
of
were
him.
backing up.
Right.
They were backing up, like, out of fear. So yeah,
Imagine three of Debo's put together, at least three Debo's put together
right,
into one. I'd be nervous to be just be around that person, much less then have to think
Yeah.
like it has no capacity to feel empathy or emotion, not in a rage. I
No,
got
look what
I
that
got a
one little
gorilla.
monk. Look what that one chimpanzee did to that woman in
Yep.
seconds.
Hmm.
And I mean, it wasn't that he hit her; like he tore the flesh off of her face
Yep.
and was
Yep.
breaking the bones, biting her. Like, no,
We don't gorilla strength. They say if you could like really like put it into something, it would bench like 4,000 pounds. So one swing of a gorilla's arm is going to like basically like break ribs. Like its bone density, even the skin on a gorilla is much thicker than what
right?
a human is. So to your point, you can punch you and do it all day, but it's not happening. What's got Jordan
Yeah.
got? It would probably take like 10 people to beat one Debo though. um,
So that's
but
30
again,
people at that point to at least fight the gorilla
right.
to our credit.
And I'm telling you, like, so here's my thing. And Jordan, you're gonna have to stand on this one then. The strength disparity between a hundred grown men and a full blown gorilla. That
Won't
means
matter.
right, but that means we got to be able to admit that basically we could lose to 105-year-olds. Imagine getting beat down by 100 kindergartners. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Right.
I could do that. Hey,
In my sleep, yeah, on my
man,
back, even.
right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna kick one of them, and 8 of them are gonna go with them.
yeah,
And that's exactly what a
yeah.
silverback's gonna
And that's
do.
like with gorillas and that Tasmanian devil, like twirl that they do with, yeah, they're just, not only that, they're very instinctive. Like they have angle. It's like a bird being able to see a mile away. You know what I
Right,
mean? They just have animals have instincts that we just don't see coming. It's not like Bruce Lee where he's fighting one person and the other 100 are standing there doing this to it until it's their turn, like that's not real fighting.
right. That
So
was choreographed. I know people say like if you all rush it at once and stuff like that, and but I honestly think you're just gonna piss it off more, and its fight or flight mode is going to like take it to a level you don't want to see.
right.
Uh,
And again, we're talking average men. We're not talking burly men. We're not talking, like you said, Brock Lesnar type. We're talking just average Joes that you can only pile so many people. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah. And the damage is going to come from me running behind you. It hits you, you fly back into me, and now your
right.
skull takes out my face, or whatever else. That's the damage. The damage is going to be from
And
that
here's
first
another.
wave.
You
Was
see
that
that video where that dog? You see that video where that dog attacked the other little dog, and it was a park. Nobody could get that dog off that dog
right?
because once he was locked in, he was locked in. It literally took a man to stick his fingers in the dog's butt to get the dog to be like to take him out of that mode because
Right.
he had that dog locked in. You know what I'm saying? And the guy he kept doing it to get the dog off of him, man.
Hey
Because
man, you check my
so
oil.
I'm
I'm
saying
gonna stop too.
so my point is that's what you'd have to do to a gorilla, man. You'd have to find the sack or something because average fighting, not gonna do it.
No,
So that
yeah,
would probably be the best method. Everybody line up and get a kick. You know what I'm saying? Maybe at that point you can take them down.
yeah, it'd be interesting. Fort Knox, yeah, we've taken mammoths down with just spears and sticks and rocks. But the debate with this is it's 100
But we're
men
talking no
with,
weapon,
yeah, no weaponry. Yeah,
no
if it was
weapons.
weaponry, I think you'd have a far better shot because you could just have like 100
Oh,
people
if we're
throw rocks.
talking weapons. 10 people with weapons could take out a gorilla, man. Like at that point, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we're saying. Average men, no weapons. You can punch it all day long. It ain't gonna do jack.
no, you're gonna end up breaking your
You
hands
can't hit
before.
hard enough. Yeah, you can't hit hard enough to make it even feel it.
Yeah, no, yeah, mammoth's way bigger, but again, you can't punch a mammoth out either. Like, there's no way people would have starved to death if they had to just beat a mammoth down with their hands. It wouldn't have
Correct,
happened.
because then you're talking about bleeding out. You're talking about not being able to succumb to head injury and things like that with a weapon. But yeah, they weren't doing that crap with bare hands.
No, yeah, that'd be like, I'm guessing, just like ripping a coconut open with your bare hands, like the
Right.
hide on something that we can't even understand. So, I got the gorilla all day. I got the gorilla all
Yeah.
day. I think even
All right. So
well,
speaking of, I'll change a little bit to a spiritual conversation to an extent, right?
all right, go ahead.
So in Egyptian caves and back in the day, there was a lot of hieroglyphics that pointed to the fact that there used to be aliens that roamed the world. Um,
Right.
Regardless of whether there's rocks around or not, son, you can't use them. There's nothing to use. So
Yeah.
that's just the scenario. Um, but again, there was hieroglyphics and stuff that said that there was aliens that ran the world or run the world. There was also pyramids that they say, like even though the pyramids are built like this, they're saying it's also going like this underground, and that the tip of the tops of the pyramids are just the tops of all this other stuff going on way beneath them, right? So here's my theory, and this is just my question: is it possible that when God cast Satan out to the earth, that Satan decided to build his own creatures, and he that's where dinosaurs came from? He wanted bigger and better than what God built,
Oh.
right? However, dinosaurs that were too big for man to tame. If dinosaurs roam the earth, pterodactyls roam the sky, there'd be nothing in existence that wasn't God's design. So he got rid of them. And the reason I'm talking about this because we were talking about mammoths. But he got rid of the dinosaurs and kept the other animals that were created. Right. Same thing with aliens. You take Satan's background of deception, trying to be outsmarting God. I think he created aliens
Mm,
and realized that their intelligence was so advanced that again humans couldn't take care of that. So again, they were banished. There has to be a reason the hieroglyphics show that they existed at some point, but they're not here now. There's a reason that dinosaurs existed at one point, but they don't exist now.
right.
So that's just something I thought about before. I was like, you know what? Because when you look at, if God made things in His image, Satan's obviously going to make things in His image.
Right.
Everything, dinosaurs are not attractive creatures. So the ugliness inside is what created the ugliness inside is what created the image. So you
Mm,
look at a pterodactyl, that looks nothing like a hummingbird. You know what I'm saying? That thing is, but
right.
it really existed. You know what I'm saying? So just food for thought, man. That's my topic of the day. I'm sticking to it because
That's
we never
interesting.
know. You know what I'm saying?
So, by that standard, would
It,
the ice age have been something that God created to say, I have more power to wipe out what you've created?
well, I think, as it states in the Bible, He's not going to put anything on someone that they can't handle, right?
Mm,
So He's not going to allow the enemy to bring something more powerful than what he himself created,
mm,
because he knew by his design how he wanted it to come up, right? So I think that, yeah, I really think that that's how that stuff got just dissolved or depleted.
right. So, is it possible that aliens still exist? They just don't wander. They just don't roam the planet like they
I
possibly
think he
did
pushed them
before.
out. He pushed them out, right? It's still life, right? So he's not going to destroy for no reason, but he will push them out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Maybe a
Right.
couple who knows, you know what I'm saying? But what gets me is the hieroglyphics. If you study that stuff and you see the drawings where they literally had spaceships that they chiseled in the wall to say, hey, this was going on here, then they were here before we were, right? Or around that time. So I think that that's definitely a possibility, if nothing else. And it'd be a discussion, man. I'd love to have with multiple people to get their inputs on it because
Right.
I've never heard anyone ever say it.
I've
So I'm
no,
not
I've yeah.
piggybacking off anything. This is straight me talking. This is just what I think is possible.
No, and that's a great topic because it expands the discussion and life
Right.
creators, things like that. So what really was happening at the time? And yeah, I mean, historically, it's all been kind of documented. It's in all these walls. It's in these things that we know to have at least been documented by people at the time. And
But yet,
I don't-
the Bible does not reference dinosaurs.
yeah, that's
They
true.
reference everything else: oxen, pigs, snakes, everything else, but they don't talk about.
What's the closest? The serpent in Eden.
Yeah, which even then, I have a different theory about it. I don't think it was about because you when the Bible was written, it was then taken and rewritten to where people weren't offended,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And so, it certain things don't mean certain things. Other things do, right? I think that he moved like a serpent, meaning he was sneaky, right? He enticed the woman when her husband was away.
so not a literal snake, but the more the proverbial sense to be
It
able to
wasn't
manipulate.
about the. It wasn't about. No, it wasn't about the apple, right, being eaten. It was about the woman being tempted so much by an outside being that God did not give her.
Mm,
So, which is why when it says God came back and he said, "Where are you?" They were hiding in shame. Both now they're wearing covered up fig leaves to cover their bodies, where that was never happening. That's not because of an apple, right? That's because they were having intercourse of some sort. And the shame that came from it, because that was not her husband, is why we have a lot of the problems that we have going on in the world today. And for that, God said he would curse her to have menstrual cramps. Every woman would have menstrual cramps after that for the rest of their lives.
mm.
That's
Is
all
that
in the Bible.
so? Is following the apple and the need for more? Is that like the birth of hypergamy?
How so?
Because if you had everything like Eden, and all you had to do was not have that one thing, and just follow
Right,
that simple rule, but that's still not
right,
enough. Is that kind of hypergamous behavior?
correct. Absolutely. Because enough is never enough. And
Right.
when you look at women today, there's plenty of jokes around. So again, I can't take the credit, but
The husband
women are
store.
just not they're not happy with themselves, man. You can't your butt's not big enough, your weight's not good enough, your height's not high enough, your eyes aren't blue enough. It just you can't please them.
Right. Well, and it's sad enough, but then the blame shifts to, well, this is what men want, and I've never heard a guy say, I want to keep somebody with a BBL. Like, it's one thing, fun things are fun things, and I'm not saying we should be using each other, but it is what it is. But people are lining themselves up to be used for fun rather than forever, and that's the thing. These the makeup jobs, the all these things, it's chasing something, and that's within. Like, if you're still applying this many layers or this many surgeries, that's got nothing to do with anybody of any gender outside of you. You have to work on yourself, and when you're not, you're still chasing validation from other people.
Sure. Yeah, and
uh,
that's so back to Genesis. It's an interesting story, but I don't think it was about the fruit. And like I said, they had to write it. It was rewritten. That's why there's so many books of the Bible taken out because it was too offensive. There was a
mm,
lot of um, homosexuality and bestiality and things taken out of the Bible because the new wave writers they didn't want to put all that stuff in there. So I think that they dolled it up a little bit too much.
that the
Um,
Sodom and Gomorrah sections.
Yeah, but that's in the Bible still. But there's other books. Golly. You know what? Give me 1 second.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. There's a link in the description. You can definitely select all on the notifications, so you'll see when we go live. You'll see other videos that drop. There's some reactions, a lot of shorts, and all that good stuff. But back to Will.
Yeah, so this is the Bible of the books taken out of the Bible.
Oh, wow.
So this is how thick it is. So there's a lot of stuff that was taken out when they rewrote the Bible. So yeah,
That's as
it's
thick as a
interesting
Bible
stuff.
itself.
Exactly.
Huh.
So these are the books that was taken out. So yeah, man, it's crazy. So um, it's definitely interesting. But I think that certain things being omitted and not mentioned in the Bible, it's interesting why.
Yeah. So is it possible? I mean, I guess you kind of touched on it already, but we still see, or at least we think we see things that are of alien presence or extraterrestrial. Is it still amongst us?
Absolutely. I just think that it has to be it's it's tamed in such a way that it's not time for it to take over. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if you know your Bible, then there's spiritual designs of things that just have to happen first.
Right.
Um, so when people start to and overtakes and all that stuff, like no, because my Bible tells me different. Um, However, I do think that there is way more out in space that we just don't know about. There's stuff, depths of the ocean we can't know about. We just will never see because if you give humans too much power, too much knowledge, I think that's where the book of Genesis tied into when he said, "Don't eat from the truth of the tree of knowledge." And then this Satan tempted her to eat because he was saying that you'll be just as smart as him and things like that. There is a problem with humans being too smart. So I think a lot of things are withheld uh, from certain people. There's this think about it like this: in each career that there's only a certain amount of people that would do that job. I was in the
Hmm.
military 22 years. I know people who would never be in the military, right? There are people who drive trucks. I would never drive a truck. You know what I mean? So there's a certain amount of people on this earth to do certain amount of things. And if we learn too much, you have people like Elon Musk who then take their power and abuse it. And so there's a lot more. And if they found out that if they found out that a planet was made of gold, they would try to go get it.
We'd be trying to
You know
haul
what I'm
it back.
saying? Little by little, man, you
Yeah.
know they would.
And yeah,
Oh,
and
we
there's
need
the
these men.
gravitational
So
pull.
that's correct. So that's my point, man. The greed of humans, we can't have that much knowledge.
No, I agree. I was I was walking into the gym and I heard a couple of the clerks talking, and it's always the if you could go back with the knowledge that you have, would you go back and and redo things? And I think that's a tragic. I think it's a great like tragic movie. That imagine just knowing everything and always knowing
Right.
everything. That's
It's
tragic.
almost
That's
like it's just as bad as knowing the future. It's just as
right,
bad as knowing when you're gonna die, right?
right, right,
So
right. Too
yeah,
much
too much
knowledge. Yeah,
knowledge,
and
front or back, is dangerous to us.
well, and what do you do with that? So how often do we, I'm sure there have been 10-year-olds that had like some formula to something, but they wrote it on a napkin so it didn't look credible as a scientist, but it was probably that formula. But we as adults don't give children that. So imagine the frustration as well. Being
Right.
from age, 5 to 25 and nobody really giving a
Right.
damn because well you're still a kid, you can't possibly know
Well,
that.
I'll take it a step further. This I know from actual facts that even when the slaves came, or slaves were captured and brought over to basically build America, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the inventions that were
Mhm.
created during those times.
Mhm.
You know, for the first time, a lot of patents and stuff came back then. Why? Because they were doing all the work and they were trying to find better, easier ways of getting the job done. So then you take that and you're doing well for yourself. Well, you're not going to get the credit. I'm going to take the credit. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
So there, man, if people would go back and look at how a lot of the patents were started, a lot of them were started back in slavery days.
Right. And if you didn't have the money to even just file a patent, you know, well, I do.
Correct.
I have that much
No,
money, and
because you didn't own anything, right?
yep.
So a lot of the plantation owners they got rich because of that, because whatever the slaves owned, they owned. So if a slave came up with an idea to churn butter, now guess what? Now that farmer is known for producing butter.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now he's rich. So yeah,
Yeah.
almost anything you trace back, it's going to trace back to slavery. It's not going to trace back to Columbus.
No, no. I mean, we can only attribute, him being lost for the most part. And then knowing what we
Yeah,
know about him now, like he was revered as a hero, which is crazy. But yeah, just knowing the madman that he was. But I've always wondered why. I guess maybe because he landed in what we call America, which wasn't, but why we still celebrate it.
I don't.
For such a country of make America great again, of patriotism, of all these things, we're celebrating a European who never even landed here, not at that time, the way that they
Right.
say. And you're right, it's nothing
Even
I
his
celebrate
even
either.
his book, his own memoir, tells that there were lots of different types of people here, not just the Indians.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? The Indians were just the easiest prey because they were the closest to him. But there were other different nationalities already here. So
Yeah.
he didn't discover anything, man. That's
No,
ridiculous. And another thing is, how can we celebrate Thanksgiving as kids when we're celebrating the Pilgrims and all of that stuff and Columbus Day, but yet we all know the Indians were already here. Like it,
right. Right.
no,
And they saved the pilgrims because the pilgrims wouldn't have made it through. Believe it was a couple of those winters. They showed them how to irrigate, how to grow things that weren't in England, that they were growing. So there was a lot to, yeah, attribute their survival to, and then to turn and have, the way things turn out the way they did is just, it's a shameful piece of history.
yeah, because the clothing that they gave back had smallpox,
The
and
smallpox.
it wiped out a trail of Indians. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's definitely a discussion for next time because yeah, people got to know their history. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. There were some guys talking about this the other day, and one of them he was talking about the dialect of African Americans, and it's from a book that I had read as well. It's called White Trash, and it basically talks about poor whites in the South, who were like in the 1800s, who came initially from Scotland. So there was a high propensity of violence because they were still warring clans, just in different places. So you would have random acts of violence, think Bloods and Crips. If things were on
Right,
site, you had high levels of alcoholism, drinking, you had illiteracy, you had random sex, all these things that have now been assigned to the black community as stereotypes in a lot of ways were already in place. It was these things
sure,
that, well, you're emulating what you see around you, and then even when these poor whites were trying to move north, they were the subject of, not that kind of white. You might have seen a
right.
proper whites only, or English speaking whites only, or something. So it's funny how that repeated itself. But once we got to the point of, hey, we have to associate power and property ownership with grouping, then it was okay to bring in the Slavs, the like all of these other groups, and just call them white, and everybody else
Right.
was non-white. And there's your birth of power, of
Every
land ownership.
others.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Everything else was an
Yeah.
other. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, man. Because a lot of the last names that people have is or African Americans have is because of they were named after their slave owners.
Correct.
So
Correct.
you know, so yeah, whoever owned you gave you their last name. So it's crazy. There's why there's a lot of Johnsons in the world. That's why there's a lot of, and now you look at Johnson, you almost associate that with a black last name, right? Harris, Jones, all of that stuff.
Jackson.
Yeah, that was yeah. So yeah, man. But yeah, I guess we did 55 good minutes. I'm good.
Man, that is solid talk. Shout out to Fort Knox because he was really solid in the chat. I know we had
Absolutely, always.
Steph Jansen and Keating Gaming. The guys were in early, so yeah, we'll push this and make it a more frequent thing. But I know it's just hard sometimes, like when you got to catch up and make schedules and everything else. So I'm glad you had the time today to be able to do that.
Yeah, man. I tell you, my schedule is ridiculous right now.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. Especially with school. How's that going?
It's good. I'm halfway done, so I've got a year left. It's crazy because even being halfway done, it's only 6 classes, so I've got 6 left. So I'll do 2 over the summer, like I said, 2 in the winter, 2 in the spring. That's it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I will
Yeah.
have I will have a law degree, so and I'm
Yeah.
still maintaining a 3.95. So hanging,
Yeesh.
keeping it. No, I'm sorry. My last class, I got a 95.5. So my grade point average is 3.9.
That's what's up, man.
After,
That is fantastic. And
yeah, I got 1B plus out of all my classes. I got 1B plus, and it was only a 1 credit class, but it was the first class I took, so I
mm,
wasn't acclimated on how the legal structure worked. So my first paper was garbage
oh,
for my final.
right, right.
So I got a B plus in that class. But yeah, so I'm hanging out at a 3.9, so that's good enough.
That's what's up, man. That is what's up. And it's gonna benefit. I mean, when you were saying earlier, being able to help people and things like that who aren't gonna know certain parts of how to navigate things. I mean, and we could probably go a whole nother hour on that topic alone, just being able to understand how the law works, especially for men in courts and things like that. So, yeah, good on you because that's going to really benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of the cyber crimes that are coming up, man, that's what my degree is in. So people have to be aware. Have you seen, before we go, have you seen I know you don't watch a lot of TV. You got to watch on Netflix Day Zero or Zero Day with
Okay.
Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah, I
It's
did
all
see that.
about
I did see for that.
that's a good show. It's a series, so you can kind of stop it and go through, right? But the premise is about a cyber attack um, in the United States, and
Mm,
basically 1 minute of the cyber attack killed 3,000 people
wow.
just because it affected the lights, the trains, the airplanes. So I don't want to tell you too much, but definitely check it out. People have to be aware of the possibilities of what could happen.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure.
So,
Okay. I'll get you out on
yeah.
that.
All right, brother.
Any closing words for the people?
Nah, I'll save them bars I gave you last time. I'll save that for next time.
All right. Yeah, that'll be next time. We'll have a cipher and we'll get Fort Knox in here somehow.
Yeah, I got just to explain it, what I'm saying, if nothing else, because I think it's valuable. But you guys have a good night. Enjoy. Stay blessed, man. Stay blessed.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. You want to close it out?
You go for it.
All right. I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. All right, brother.
Later, brother.
Love
All
you.
right. Love you.
Like,
Late.